Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Podcast. Hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourselves. Let's move towards today's topic.
Today we're doing something a little different, and honestly, something that might make you want to keep the lights on a little longer tonight.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend that.
Today we're heading into the mountains. I don't mean some cozy ski trip with hot cocoa and a warm fire.
No, absolutely not. We are heading to the high Himalayas. Specifically, we're going to the Rohtang Pass in Himachal Pradesh. But here's the critical context for today's deep dive. We are going back to the year 2012.
Right, 2012, which is a very specific and deliberate choice of time. Why 2012?
Because it's the defining variable here. If you've been to Manali or that whole region recently, you know the Adel Tunnel has changed the game completely. I mean, it's an engineering marvel. It bypasses all those treacherous peaks. It cuts travel time, and it makes the journey relatively safe. But back in 2012, that tunnel didn't exist. That road was a beast. It was notorious.
I was actually looking into the history of the name Rohtang while prepping for this. It's not just some quaint local name, is it?
Far from it. The etymology is actually quite terrifying. Rohtang literally translates to pile of corpses in Persian.
Pile of corpses. That is, wow, subtle.
Yeah, it's a historical warning label that really stuck. For centuries, trade caravans, travelers, locals, they died crossing that pass due to the totally unpredictable weather.
Right.
We're talking about sudden blizzards that hit in July, landslides that wipe out the road in seconds, winds that can literally push a truck off a cliff. So when we talk about this setting, we aren't just talking about a pretty backdrop for a story. We're talking about a place where the barrier between life and death feels historically and physically very thin.
And that is the absolute perfect stage for the source material we were breaking down today. It's titled Chalava, The Fog That Calls Your Name. And it's this really harrowing account of 5 medical students who decided to take a post-exam trip to Manali and, well, made the massive mistake of challenging the mountain after dark.
It's a really fascinating because it blends very modern, highly rational characters. These medical students, men and women of science, with something ancient and utterly inexplicable. The core theme here isn't just, your standard ghost story. It's about the intersection of natural danger and supernatural folklore.
Right, this idea that the mountain doesn't just crush you physically with a rock slide. It can actually lose you. It can swallow you psychologically.
Exactly. And the monster at the center of this isn't a ghost in the traditional sense. It's not some demon with horns. It's something called a Chalava.
The Chalava.
Right. In South Asian folklore, specifically up in the Punjab and Himachal regions, the word implies movement, deception. Something that is a mirage or an illusion. It's a spirit that mimics. It's a wanderer that makes you wander.
The tagline of this deep dive, and honestly the thing that gave me literal chills reading the script, is the specific nature of this creature. Because it doesn't chase you.
No.
It's not a slasher villain running after you with a machete. It waits for you to follow it.
And that is the real psychological horror element. It requires your participation. It relies on your own confusion. So our mission today is to completely deconstruct this encounter. We're going to analyze the anatomy of this Chalava. We'll break down how these deeply rational students completely fell apart. And we're going to look at the uncanny valley aspect of this entity. We need to understand why this specific story resonates so deeply with our primal fears of getting lost.
So let's start with the victims. Or I guess the survivors. We'll get to that later. But we have this group of 5 medical students. And they are desperate to escape the pressure of their 5th semester MBBS exams. Their specific personalities entirely determine how they react when the horror actually starts.
It's the classic horror trope, right? But with this heavy layer of intellectual arrogance, these aren't just random teenagers making bad decisions at a cabin in the woods. They are future doctors. They study anatomy. They literally dissect cadavers. They believe in cause and effect, biology, physics. They have this perceived authority over death because they study it in a lab under fluorescent lights. They think they understand exactly how the body works and how the world works.
Yeah.
So let's look at the lineup. First, you have Arav. He is the anchor.
Arav is the calm one, the leader. He's the guy who, checks the tire pressure before you leave. He's rational. He's basically the control group in this terrifying experiment.
Yeah. Exactly. Every group needs that grounding force. Ardith is the one who plans the route, but then you have Karin. And, well, there is always a Karin.
Oh, man, Karin.
Yeah.
The reckless provocateur.
Yeah.
The script actually says he believes fear is for the weak. He's the one who actively invites trouble. He's dragging everyone out of their comfort zone.
He represents the absolute hubris of youth. That nothing can hurt me attitude. He's essentially the Ide to Arav's superego. He is the catalyst for all the bad decisions. Then you have Rishi, and I found Rishi very relatable, honestly. He's intelligent, but highly anxious. He's described as the WebMD of the group. He overthinks symptoms.
Yeah, he's the guy who gets a headache and immediately thinks it's a brain tumor. But in a horror scenario, that anxiety actually makes him hyper-aware.
Right.
He's the canary in the coal mine here.
Yeah.
He notices things before anyone else because his brain is always scanning for threats.
Precisely. Then there is Mira. She is the quiet intelligence of the group, observant. She notices the tiny details that the loud ones miss. She's the one watching the edges of the frame, so to speak. And finally, Tanya. Cheerful by day, terrified of the dark.
Yeah, Tanya represents the emotional vulnerability of the group. So you have this really potent mix of skepticism, anxiety, and pure rationality. And remember, they've just spent 5 months constantly surrounded by cadavers. They are stressed, they're completely burnt out, and they just want freedom.
And that context is so important for what happens next. They are running away from death, the cadavers, the exams, the heavy, sterile atmosphere of medical school. And they're running toward what they think is life. Snow, speed, Manali. They are desperate for a massive rush, just to prove they are alive. They literally want to feel the wind in their hair to wash off the smell of formalin.
So Karin is the one who really initiates this call to adventure. He wants bikes, he wants the adrenaline rush. So they head to Manali. And this is where we get the very first sign that things are going to go horribly wrong. It's the classic warning scene.
It's a staple of the genre for a very good reason. So they are at this roadside tea stall, it's evening, and they meet an old local man. Now, usually in these stories, the locals are entirely dismissed as superstitious. And that is exactly what happens here. The students are incredibly proud, the old man asks, young doctors, and they just beam with pride. They wear that title like armor.
And he gives them a very, very specific instruction. He points up to the mountains and says, go to Rotang, but return before evening.
It's a boundary, a strict temporal boundary. The implication is you can play in the domain of the gods or the spirits during the day, but the night belongs to them. It's that ancient concept of safe light versus unsafe dark. It's a rule as old as humanity.
And Karan, being Karan, just has to poke the bear. This is the moment that really stuck out to me in the script. He smirks at the old man and says, Uncle, we study dead bodies. We're not scared of fog.
It's such a powerful clash of worldviews. You have the total arrogance of modern science. We have dissected death. We understand it's just biology. Versus the ancient survivalist wisdom of the hills. Karan is trying to apply the rules of the city, the rules of the classroom to the wild.
Right.
He thinks death is something you study flat on a table. And the old man's response, it is the thematic thesis of this entire story.
The old man says, dead bodies don't walk. Mountains sometimes do.
That is just chilling.
It really is.
It completely reframes the threat. Karan is talking about biology. The old man is talking about geology coming to life. He is saying the landscape itself is the entity. You can't dissect a mountain. You can't put a mountain under a microscope.
But of course, they laugh it off. They're young. They're on rented bikes. They feel totally invincible.
Yeah.
So they head up the pass.
And initially, the mountain seduces them. This is the big high before the fall. The snow is glittering, the wind is screaming past them, clouds are moving like living things, they are making reels, taking photos, they are experiencing that sublime, intoxicating awe of nature.
And because of that, they lose track of time, which, if you've been hiking, is so easy to do in the mountains. 1 minute it's bright and sunny, the next, well, everything just changes.
And that is the trap, the transition. The script actually specifies the exact time, 5:40 p.m. Now, usually twilight is a gradual process, right? You get the golden hour, then the blue hour, then dusk.
Yeah.
Sunlight dimmed unnaturally fast.
Unnaturally fast. And then the fog arrives.
Yeah.
And this is where the description gets really specific and really creepy. Because it didn't roll in, it didn't drift, it dropped.
Like a switch was flipped. That is a very unnatural behavior for weather. Fog usually accumulates slowly. This description, dropping like a heavy curtain, it suggests intent. It suggests that they didn't just drive into bad weather, they drove into a cage that was suddenly slammed shut.
Visibility immediately goes down to 10 feet. Arov, the rational anchor, starts to feel uneasy. He mutters, "This isn't normal." And that is when you know it's bad, when the calm guy gets rattled.
Which brings us to the loop. This is where the story shifts from a standard survival thriller right into supernatural horror. They are descending, they are trying to get out, but they aren't actually moving forward.
Rishi, the anxious one, he notices it first. He asks, "Did we cross this broken railing before?"
And nobody wants to answer him?
No.
Because to answer him is to admit that reality is fundamentally breaking. To answer him is to admit that the basic laws of physics are being violated. But then, 5 minutes later, they see it again. The exact same broken railing, the same rock formation, the same tire marks.
Tanya realizes they're going in circles. But Karan, of course, tries to rationalize it. He says it's just a GPS glitch.
But the technology has already abandoned them. Zero network, no signal, and the silence.
Yeah, the silence.
The script heavily emphasizes that there are no other vehicles. If you have ever been on a mountain pass in India, especially Rohtang, you know there's always something. A truck, a bus, a tourist taxi. Always. Absolute silence up there is terrifying. It creates total isolation. It means they've been filtered out of the real world.
So they're trapped in this loop. Physically, the engines are running, they are driving, but geographically, they are stuck. And then the assault shifts. It goes from visual, the fog, the loop, to auditory.
And this is exactly where the Chalava really earns its title as the deceiver. Because it doesn't roar, it doesn't scream at them, it whispers.
I really want to double click on the psychological warfare aspect because I feel like this is where their medical student background becomes a huge liability, not an asset. We have Rishi, right? The WebMD guy.
Right. Rishi represents the desperate attempt of the human brain to categorize chaos. When the totally inexplicable happens, we don't just accept it. We try to file it under a label we already understand. So when the voices start, Rishi screams, "This is hypoxia."
Let's unpack that for you guys listening. Hypoxia is oxygen deprivation. They are at Rohtang Pass, that is what, like 13,000 feet?
Roughly 13,050 feet, yeah. At that altitude, the partial pressure of oxygen is significantly lower than at sea level. Hypoxia can absolutely cause cognitive impairment. It can cause severe confusion, dizziness, and yes, in extreme cases, hallucinations. High-altitude climbers actually call it the third man factor. It's the sensation that someone else is with you who isn't really there. It's a documented, known phenomenon.
Okay, so Rishi isn't just going crazy. He is reaching for a legitimate textbook medical explanation. He's tried to diagnose the mountain.
Exactly. He is desperately trying to turn a ghost story into a medical case study. He is thinking, we are just oxygen-starved. Our brains are misfiring. This isn't real. It is a massive defense mechanism. Because if it's hypoxia, he can fix it. He can descend. He can breathe in specific ways. But if it is a Chalava, there is no prescription for that. There is no pill for a demon.
But Mira completely destroys that theory. And she does it with cold, hard logic.
She points out the synchronization. Hypoxia is a purely individual physiological response. My brain might misfire and I might hear a bell. Your brain might misfire and you might see a flashing light. But for 5 separate biological systems to hallucinate the exact same coordination of voices coming from the exact same direction at the exact same time, that defies statistical probability. It defies biology.
It's the shared dream paradox. And that is why Mira is arguably the most terrified of them all. Because she knows the science doesn't fit. And when the science fails, what is left?
Terror. Just pure, undiluted terror. And let's talk about the specific voices for a second. The script says Arav hears his sister. Karan hears his mother. This isn't just random static or spooky noise. This is targeted auditory deception.
Targeted auditory deception. That sounds like military psychological warfare.
It is, in a very real way. Think about it. If you want to lure a soldier out of a bunker, you don't play static. You play sounds of distress. You play something that triggers an automatic emotional override. The Chalava is hacking their emotional hardwiring.
It's predatory empathy. It is actively using their love against them. That is so twisted. Arav hears his younger sister. She represents innocence, someone he fundamentally needs to protect.
It is twisted, and it tells us something crucial about the entity's intelligence. It isn't a mindless beast. It knows exactly what Arav values. It knows what Karan needs, maybe his mother's approval. It implies a level of psychic intrusion that is far more invasive than just a scary monster jumping out from behind a rock. It's inside their heads before it's even visible.
And Tanya. Poor Tanya. She is the one who completely cracks. She yells, "Don't respond." Why is responding so uniquely dangerous in this context?
Because in almost all folklore, the response is an invitation. It is a formal acknowledgement of the entity. In many traditions across the world, spirits cannot actually harm you unless you invite them in or unless you acknowledge their presence. By responding, you are validating the illusion. You are saying, "I hear you, I believe you are real." That creates the bridge. It solidifies the connection.
So by staying totally silent, they're desperately trying to keep that bridge closed. But the voices are getting closer. The script says Rishi hears a voice say, "Rishi, Beta." And Beta means son. It's so deeply intimate.
It creates this horrible cognitive dissonance. Your eyes see a frozen, terrifying, empty road, but your ears hear a warm, loving living room. The human brain cannot reconcile those two conflicting inputs. That dissonance causes sheer panic. It literally freezes you. And that is exactly where the Chalava wants them. Frozen, confused, and totally ripe for the taking.
And then they get the visual confirmation that they're absolutely nowhere. They see a milestone through the fog.
Rotang, 3 kilometers. They have been driving for an hour downhill. They should be 20 kilometers away by now. Seeing that sign is the exact moment hope dies. They haven't moved an inch.
The script notes that the mountains felt different now. Quote, "Not silent, watching," unquote.
That is the ultimate personification of the landscape. The environment itself has become the primary antagonist. The rocks aren't just rocks anymore, they are the walls of the cage.
Which moves us into section 4, the visual manifestation. Suddenly, the bikes die. All of them. This massive EMP effect, and then we see the figure.
The description here is very, very careful. It says tall, unclear, shifting like smoke. It actively refuses to be defined, but the movement is what really gets me. The script says it glides.
I wanted to ask about that. Why is gliding so scary? I mean, ghosts always glide in the movies.
Right, but think about what gliding actually represents. It represents a total lack of friction. It represents a complete disconnect from the physical laws of the earth. We walk, we impact the ground, we have mass and weight. Something that glides has no weight. It is not of this world. It is traversing the physical space without interacting with it. It suggests an ethereal nature that simply cannot be hurt by a rock or a punch.
And then it turns away. This is the anti-jump scare.
Precisely. A jump scare screams, "Look at me!" The Chalava whispers, "Follow me." It plays entirely on curiosity. It plays on the deep human need to resolve ambiguity. You see a shape in the fog, your brain wants to know what it is, so you naturally step closer.
And Curran steps closer. He almost falls for it entirely. Arav actually has to physically hold him back, but then Curran challenges it. He shouts, "Show yourself."
And the fog tightens. The figure suddenly appears just 15 feet away, and here comes the detail that I think is the absolute masterpiece of this script. The head tilt.
Oh man, head tilted unnaturally, studying them.
Think about a dog when it sees a weird new toy, or a bird looking at a worm on the ground. It tilts its head to get a better angle, to assess, to calculate. That motion strips the humans of their dominance. They are no longer the observers, they are the observed. It's looking at them like bugs in a jar.
And then the shape shifting. It literally turns into Arav.
This is the doppelganger horror. It's an incredibly ancient fear, the idea of the double. In German folklore, seeing your doppelganger is a direct omen of death.
But why though? Why is seeing yourself so fundamentally terrifying?
Because it implies that you are replaceable. If that thing out there looks like me and sounds exactly like me, do I still exist? It steals your identity. And in this specific context with the students, it causes immediate massive distrust within the group.
Right. If I look at you and then I look at the fog and I see you again standing out there, suddenly I don't trust the you standing right next to me.
Exactly. It completely fractures the group cohesion. Is the Arav holding my arm the real Arav? Or is the real Arav out there in the mist? It creates instant paranoia, and a paranoid group is a weak, easily divisible group.
Mere gasps. It's copying us. It's a mimic.
In biology, mimicry is a core survival strategy. Animals mimic leaves or sticks or other highly dangerous animals to survive or to hunt. The Chalava is an apex mimic. It mimics the environment as fog. It mimics their social bonds using voices. And finally, it mimics their physical form. It is the ultimate adapter.
It is literally evolving in real time. It tried, the fog didn't work perfectly, they stuck together, they tried the voices they didn't follow, so it tries the visual mimicry. It is cycling through tactics.
And that is a terrifying thought, that it is actively learning. It is essentially A/B testing its horror on them. Did this work? No. Okay, let's try wearing the face of their friend. It shows a profoundly high level of problem-solving intelligence.
You know, that line from the end of the script comes back to me now. It only wanted to play this whole shape-shifting thing. It really felt like a game, like a child trying on different masks.
A very dark, very dangerous game.
It implies that the entity was just experimenting. It wasn't necessarily hungry, it was bored. And that, in my opinion, makes it infinitely scarier than a hungry beast. You can predict hunger. You cannot predict boredom.
So they are trapped, the bikes are totally dead, the monster is mirroring them. Absolute panic is setting in. But then Arav remembers something, and it's not from medical school. It's not from an anatomy textbook. It's from his grandmother.
This is the ultimate triumph of folklore over science. Throughout the entire story, they have relied on logic, the bikes, the GPS, their biology knowledge. All of that has spectacularly failed. The only tool left in the box is the old stories.
Arav recalls this specific piece of advice. If something misleads you in the mountains, reverse something. It's actually a very common trope in global folklore. In many cultures, if you are being led astray by a fae or a forest spirit, you turn your clothes inside out. It's sometimes called widdershins, or inversion. The logic here is that the spirit world is a mirror image of ours. To break the connection to that world, you must invert your own reality. You essentially have to confuse the confusion.
So they do it. And just imagine this scene. 5 completely terrified medical students, shivering in the freezing Himalayan cold, frantically taking off their jackets and putting them back on inside out. I mean, objectively, it seems ridiculous, right?
It seems totally absurd to the rational mind, but in that specific moment, it is an act of desperate, profound faith. It's the ultimate suspension of their disbelief. They are verbally and physically admitting our science cannot save us. They close their eyes and they start chanting prayers.
And they wait. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. The script really emphasizes the agonizing wait. It wasn't an instant fix.
Because that wait is the test. Do you truly trust the ritual? Or do you open your eyes in panic? It creates this incredible, suffocating tension. The monster is right there, standing just 15 feet away. And you have to close your eyes and just wait. That requires immense, almost superhuman willpower.
And then the shift. The wind changes. The fog actually thins out. And the road slope finally changes to downward.
Reality reasserts itself. The loop is totally broken. The inversion worked. The physics of the real world come rushing back in.
And the most beautiful sight in the world appears. Headlights. A real truck.
It's so mundane, right? A truck. Just a dirty, noisy diesel truck. But in this context, it represents the vital tether back to the human world. It represents civilization, friction, reality. It's the cavalry coming over the hill, but in the form of a beat-up Tata truck.
They follow it in absolute silence. They don't speak a single word. They are too terrified to even acknowledge what just happened.
That silence is trauma. Pure trauma. They are quietly processing the impossibility of what they just survived. They are in deep shock.
They finally reach Manali at 11:20 p.m.
Safe.
and check into a hotel, And they have this debrief with the hotel owner. And his reaction, he isn't surprised at all.
This is the town secret trope the locals always know. He tells them many people never came back. And then he delivers that terrifying verdict we mentioned earlier. You were lucky. It only wanted to play.
It just reinforces the idea that humans are completely insignificant in this domain. You survive only by the absolute mercy of the mountain, not by your own skill or intelligence.
Exactly. If the Chalava had wanted them dead, they would be dead. They were just shiny toys that eventually got tired of playing with.
But the story doesn't actually end there.
Yeah.
We need empirical evidence, right?
Yeah.
They are scientists, after all. So the next morning, Rishi goes down and checks the odometer on the bike.
This is the data point that elevates this from just a spooky campfire story or a mass hallucination into something else entirely. They felt like they drove for hours. Their bodies are physically exhausted. But the odometer shows they moved a grand total of 6 kilometers.
6 kilometers
Yeah.
in 3 hours.
That confirms the loop. It physically confirms the time distortion. They were burning gas, the engines were constantly running, but they weren't moving through space. They were trapped in a spatial bubble. It's a hard physical record of a supernatural event.
And then, the final twist. The lingering horror of it all. Tanya gets a notification on her phone. A missed call.
This is the technological glitch that serves as the final gut punch scare.
The call came in at 6:03 p.m. Right in the absolute middle of their ordeal in the fog. The duration was 000 and the caller ID RF.
But we know, and they know, that Arav's phone completely died at 5:30 p.m.
So RF's dead phone called Tanya's phone while they were literally standing right next to each other in the fog.
It suggests the entity can manipulate our technology. It can mimic digital signals just as easily as it mimics human voices. It used Arav's identity to try and isolate Tanya digitally. It hijacked the cell network.
That's horrifying. It means you aren't even safe behind a screen. It means that Chalava is totally compatible with modern tech. And the cliffhanger Arav is standing on the hotel balcony the next morning. It's safe, the sun is up. But he looks up into the thin morning mist, and he hears it again. Arav.
It's the whisper returning. It heavily implies that once the Chala knows you, it doesn't just forget you. Or perhaps once you have stepped into that hidden world, a part of you never really leaves.
It's that awful feeling that the connection is permanent, like he's a marked man.
Exactly. The interpretation here is that the trauma or the entity itself has left a permanent indelible mark. He used it because he is now permanently tuned into that specific frequency. He has peered behind the curtain, and you just can't unsee the gears of the universe glitching.
So what does this all mean for us? We have 5 highly rational people, a highly specific ancient entity, and a very modern survival story.
I think it serves as a deeply humbling reminder. We build these massive tunnels, we pave roads over mountains, we carry GPS devices in our pockets. We think we have entirely conquered the wild. We think we have mapped every single inch of the planet. But stories like this, and the specific folklore of the Chalava, remind us that there are still pockets of the world that operate on much, much older rules.
Rules that really don't care about your medical degree.
Precisely. The Chalava is a physical manifestation of the disorientation of the wild. It is the fog that confuses your senses. It is the echo that sounds exactly like a voice. It is the landscape actively, maliciously working to keep you there forever.
It's fascinating that the entity is defined specifically as a deceiver. It's not a predator that just hunts and eats you. It's a predator that tricks you into killing yourself.
Which is, in a way, far more sinister, because it requires your cooperation. It requires you to willing step off the ledge. It requires you to follow the voice into the dark. It basically hands you the gun, so to speak.
And that's the hook that really stays with me. It doesn't chase you, it makes you follow until you forget where you began.
It's a profound, terrifying metaphor for getting lost, both physically and mentally. It's about completely losing your reference points for reality.
Well, I don't know about you, but I am never, ever driving through a foggy mountain pass at night again.
Yeah, I think that is a very wise policy. Stick to the tunnel.
Stick to the tunnel, stay in the light.
And if you do hear your name called from the mist,
Don't answer.
just keep driving. Don't even look back.
that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the fog that calls your name. We've unpacked the folklore, the psychology, and the sheer unadulterated terror of the Chalava.
It is definitely a stark reminder that some legends are best left completely untested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought. A provocation, if you will, to take with you tonight.
Let's hear it.
We talked about the local drivers who still swear that the road feels different near Rotang after the sun goes down. But I want you, the listener, to really imagine this scenario. You are entirely alone. It's pitch dark. You are in a place where you know for a fact nobody else is around. And suddenly, from the mist, you hear the voice of the person you love most in the entire world, your mom, your partner, your child. And they are calling for help just out of sight.
That is the ultimate test of human nature.
Would you really have the strength, the cold, hard rationality to ignore it? Or would you, like most of us probably would, take that one step into the fog to find them?
A truly terrifying question.
Think about that tonight. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
Stay safe out there.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.